Welcome to Her Fund Talks, the podcast where we deep dive into gender-conscious investment and female-led innovation. I'm your host, Milena Stojceva, and today I have the pleasure to have a conversation with Marjut Falkstedt. And Marjut, thank you for joining this podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you with us. You have been actually an advocate for female-led innovation and gender-conscious investment. And in your career, you have quite of a track record in supporting this type of work. So let me say a few words about where you come from and what your background is. Marjut Falkstedt took up her appointment as EIF Chief Executive on 1st of January 2023. She is actually returning to EIF after 7 years, having previously served as Deputy Chief Executive in 2007 and 2015. She is a Finnish national. Marjut began her career at Dresdner Bank before joining the Directorate General for Economic and Financial Affairs at the European Commission in 1996. She held various roles in the field of SME and infrastructure financing until 2013 and was also an advisor to the European Commission's representatives on the board of directors of the EIF in 2001 and 2007. After this role in the EIF, she was appointed to Deputy Secretary General at the European Investment Bank in September 2015 and subsequently promoted to Secretary General there in 2018. So you have had quite of an experience in the financial sector and in supporting different new ventures as well as initiatives related to innovation. So commenting on her new appointment, Marjut said, "I'm pleased to be appointed as the new Chief Executive of the European Investment Fund, especially at a time when the role of the institution is becoming even more important. It is a huge pleasure for me to return to the EIF and be given a chance to lead an institution that plays a crucial role in supporting businesses across Europe." And we have been discussing even earlier with Marjut that it is a critical moment for EIF. It is a critical moment to show vision and leadership because Europe needs to take the lead in competitiveness. And this is usually done with the support of new enterprises, but also with an open-mindedness on how we collaborate together. And so I will start, though, with a question which is related a little bit more on the challenge that we've had. Marjut, in your opinion, what is the most significant impact of the gender gap in funding on the overall economic landscape?
No, thank you, Milena, and thank you for the introduction as well, and thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to exchange views and experiences that we both have had in our career so far. And when we think about the EIF, no, let me start even a step earlier. When we think about the European Union, we think about the population we have in the European Union and the economy we have. There are two parts, big parts of the population, male and female, and then something there in between. And the economic power comes from the whole population. It's not only, let's say, one part. And this is what has always been driving me. And there's also a second part, which is about equality. So the European Union values about equal treatment and equality, the chances that everybody should have, starting from the childhood over the education, the professional career, the ideas one has, become an entrepreneur potentially. And that has been always driving me, kind of a value stating that we have to do more. We have to allow everybody to have the chance to show what you can do. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And when we then think about the two parts, or all the parts of the population, and about the economic power, and about sustainability of an economy, the resilience of an economy, we can only we can only build it when we have everybody working together. What you just said, participating and working together, and sharing the same objectives and the same values. And this is why it is so important that, in particular, in the financial world, which used to be in certain parts very much male focused and male, let's say, driven. Certainly for good reasons at that time of at that point of time. In the current environment, we have no longer this. We can no longer afford having it. We want to build, and we have to build, a resilient, an autonomous, and sustainable and competitive European Union, which can innovate and which can indeed build all this strength, the strong companies that we can have the robust infrastructure that is needed to let the companies grow and flourish. And all this we can only do if everybody puts their hands into work and the brains into work. And that is why it is needed for a strong economy.
Yes, what a great response, because I like very much how you're connecting actually the personal journey of everyone with the role that the institutions will have in this effort. And to me, it's very critical that we actually start empowering this type of culture. Because maybe this is something that we really need to show, that also the culture in the public institutions that are supporting entrepreneurship and investing in new ventures is also changing. So very good point. To that effect, what kind of impact do you expect that her fund, which is one of the projects that's been funded by the European Commission on gender conscious investment and matchmaking with female founders, what kind of impact do you foresee that such kind of a fund could have on the overall innovation ecosystem in Europe?
Well, thank you. Now, her fund and all the activities, this type of activities, it starts with awareness, and it starts about information sharing, and it's creating indeed awareness by all participants in the economy about the necessity to have gender balanced teams, for example, to have gender balanced views, opinions, in order to make the right decisions whenever the decisions need to be made. Because having one-sided decisions only, it's not for a long-term sustainable path. That is for sure. And that is why it starts with awareness raising. And then it goes into mentoring and coaching of women and men, because also men might need
exactly
more and training to think about these issues. Because when you think about your own life, and when I think about my life, it starts to be, it's very quickly, we are in our routines. We are in our it's like a kind of very well-known environment, which doesn't force us to think differently, because it's very convenient as well. And then we are in our routine. We have to produce, we have to work, and then we have no time. So we need somebody who takes a bit of your time and says, look, have you thought about this? And that's exactly why we need, institutions and organizations and initiatives like her fund to make that. So awareness raising, information sharing, training, coaching, mentoring for both men and women. And what makes me so happy is that when I now travel around, and at times I go to venture capital funds, and then I see them really wanting to give back the good things, the good ideas. And there are many also male-led funds who provide mentoring and training to the founders, so company creators. And that is very, very good. And, it starts always with initiatives like yours. And then
Thank you
spills
for
over.
recognizing. Yes.
The snowball effect and spillover effect, it's very important. And I would say the more we have this type of initiatives, because, of course, we always say we need pan-European, but a pan-European initiative, it can do across borders a lot of good things. But at times it's also good to have something in your own language, potentially in your own region, creating your own regional network, which then creates a network with this next one and next one and next one. And then this whole system, it's like a spider's net.
Yes.
That is pan-European. But there has to be a center. And like your initiative, it's like the center of plenty of networks, which we need to create awareness. And then also, this awareness raising, information sharing, this training, coaching, mentoring, it gives courage. So what you are doing, you are building courage and trust that things can be done and things can be changed. It's very important. So
great points. As a follow-up to what you were saying, we're actually inviting also male investors, men, to participate in our initiatives, and it's wonderful because they're sharing the same view. I think it's just been somehow set, as you were saying, in the model of in previous age, in industrial age, that it would be certain initiatives and certain type of work, and financial sector would be more reserved for, let's say, men, and less to women. And I am seeing actually quite of a good result and response in terms of in Europe, in terms of the VC funds or some of the other financial institutions, that they are recognizing that diversity is playing a critical role. And as you were pointing, the more people we have who are aware and are willing to share this, the better it is, because it triggers, it spreads the word.
Yes.
Thank
exactly.
you.
Exactly. And the point is also that it's this is no longer about me. This is about future generations.
Yes.
And when I think all of us, many of us have children, and many of us have potentially daughters, and then of course you have to think about what would you want for your children, and that is also something that is certainly driving many investors. But the future has to be somehow better.
Yes, and how do we actually encourage this intergenerational fairness and responsibility to the future generations to support all of those efforts, right? So it's a great point. So how can we encourage more investors to become gender conscious and to support this type of also network building and a network of hubs across Europe on this?
Now, I think on the public sector side, it's kind of a given. When we look at the national promotion institutions, for example, who also limited partners in venture capital, they are very active. Look at KfW or PPI Fonds. I mean, look at basically all of them. Very, very gender conscious. But then when we talk about investors, other type of limited partners, potentially not in the public sector, I think we have to be able to make the case that this is also about good performance, economic performance. We have not yet discussed that part, but there are enough studies showing that having gender balance in the decision making brings long-term sustainability benefits, economic sustainability benefits, and that is something that we have to, we have to promote more. And what we have done now in the EIF, we will be launching together with BlackRock by summer. We will be publishing for free performance data of our venture capital funds.
Okay, this is
be on aggregated basis.
Very good initiative, yes.
Exactly. This will be on aggregated basis, but still you can see certain vintages, certain types of venture capital funds. And when you know that in our portfolio, there's a good part also gender balance, as we are using this gender smart investment criteria.
Yes.
You will then understand that it is in fact good business. I will not say no more about our performance, but you will understand it's robust business. And I think then we also, on our part, we can make the case that it's worth of investing into venture capital first, but then also into this type of balanced teams, and also into funds which are focusing at female founders, so female entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I think this type of information that will help us further. But we have to cover the whole investor spectrum, from banks and insurance companies, pension funds, but also asset owners, family offices, foundations. So there's a lot of work to do, and that's why we need, indeed, again, initiatives like yours to make this happen and spread the word.
Yeah. Thank you. I think it's great because, as you were saying, when figures speak, when numbers speak, you cannot object to anything like that. Of course, there is the challenge that we don't have yet a legacy and track record for female-led companies and that type of investment. What is so good is that you're showing leadership in setting up these metrics, economic metrics, as a good example that diversity, in fact, needs to be supported by policymakers, right?
Exactly.
And by public institutions and regulators that are setting the tone also and setting the framework.
Yes. But you said the word diversity, and diversity we always think about in financial terms, in terms of years of investment, in terms of the volume of investment, in terms of the country, in terms of the sector, in terms of the stage, in terms of the lifespan of the company or whatever.
Yes.
But we have never really taken into this equation the diversity aspect.
Yes.
And that is now the time to do so. That investors think diversity means more than only financial diversity, but in the good, if I have a really well diverse portfolio, which will be well performing, then also equality and gender aspect have to be taken into account.
Yes. Well, and now to my next question. What do you envision would be the future of investment landscape for female-led, women-led startups, given that we are recognizing, given the role that we are seeing that they would have? We're living in very dynamic times, as we were saying, quite a few changes in the geopolitical situation, and I know that this is one of the areas which have been shaken also with the changes. So what is your take on this? Where do we see the future?
Well, I would like to start by the fact that the life of startups nowadays is not easy at all. And it starts when I'm with the sad news that, for example, many startups have difficulties in accessing bank accounts, opening bank accounts. So tech companies opening bank accounts, for example, in Netherlands, and that is becoming a problem. It cannot be. So we already have a fundamental problem of you having a technology startup, tech innovative startup in a country. And then on the top of that, we also well know that if you have a female founder, having bank loans, for example, is also not an easy task. And then if you're going into a venture capital field and you have a majority of the fund managers are male only, it just happens to be that likely they are also looking more into male-led companies, startups.
Yeah, it's some kind of an internal bias that we have. It's human.
It's human.
Natural. Yes,
exactly.
Without paying a special focus and attention on this, you cannot, in fact, understand that you have it.
Exactly, this type of unconscious bias. Exactly what you say. This is what we all have. And it comes with education, it comes with history, it comes with many things on our back. And we have to fight against that, of course. So the female founders. So what I would like to say that thanks to all and many of the public initiatives that are out there in the countries, regions, and then at European Union level, I do believe that the word is spreading, and there are many more courageous women who are not so quickly giving up either. And and now with the social media, with all this information that is available, you have access to many more, let's say, tools and many more resources that can help you. And so I do believe the future is bright, but the road can be a bit bumpy, as it usually is. But I would like to say only a courageous word that, if the road is not bumpy, then you will not enjoy your success so much either, if it's too easy. So
Yes.
It's part of life. It's part of life.
Yeah, it's part of growing. I mean, you need
Yes.
to have challenges
Yes.
in order to develop. What are the key metrics and performance indicators you would be looking for when evaluating, let's say, women-led startups for investment? Is there a difference? Because in fact, in some of my other conversations, I see that there is, again, this unconscious bias that when investors are meeting with female founders, they would be asking more the tricky questions, or the ones that are the challenging related to risk and not so much related to opportunities. At least this is what, again, some surveys and evidence shows.
Yes.
What would you be suggesting? Yes, how do we go about it?
Now, in the EIF, as we are investing in the venture capital funds, so we look at the funds, in fact, and the team, how the team is managed and so on. And I do know that my colleagues very much focus also on issues like, do the women have the rights they should have? How is it about maternity leave? But then also for the male colleagues, what about paternity leave? So are these social values, are they really taken into account? But then talking about performance, for us, it's really in a venture capital fund, the main criteria is the strength of the team. Do they really complement each other? Do we believe that the team structure as such can implement the investment strategy the fund wants to do? So I'm not talking now directly about female founders, because indeed we have very little contact with the female founders, but I'm talking about the team. And for us, it's not a question of male or female. It's really the strength and the skills, the talent, the education, the experience, and whether we consider that this team can really, really implement the investment strategy. And can they work with us for 15 years, likely, at least? And we are very, very thorough in our analysis. So it's very much about quality of the persons.
Yes.
And then leading to the expectations of the performance.
Yeah. Being resilient to stand on to the initial goal and projection. So we are approaching the end of our conversation. Let me just ask you one more question. How can we improve this data that is available on the performance of women-led startups to attract more investors? Because as we were saying, it is much more scarce. And given that, what would be your words or your, let's say, advice to female founders so that we improve the metrics and the performance?
Okay,
I don't
now
know, maybe it's a too tough of a question related to data that doesn't exist. Just what's your take?
I think now, let me start from the European Union level. First thing is that we have to reduce the administrative burden for startups.
Thank you for saying this. This is really important. Yeah.
And that's why I always get nervous when, for example, somebody from the European Parliament says, I would like to have more information about this or that. It makes me so nervous, because we don't want to have more reporting by these companies.
Exactly.
But then the question is how to have access to the information.
Yeah.
And now that we have all these fantastic artificial intelligence tools, there must be a way how certain databases can be directly, that this tool can have access to the databases. And it could be, for example, the tax declaration of a company.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You see?
As a source. As a source. As simple as that, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then having this type of access to this type of information in all countries, one could really start building databases on also including on performance. and on different sectors. For example, you take different stages of companies and so on, aggregated basis. But who can do this? I mean, it could be somebody like Eurostat.
Yes.
Be somebody else in the European Commission, I think, but it could be one of the European Union solutions to help investors and companies to make the matchmaking, just to have that type of information available.
Yeah.
I don't see us in the EIF so much because we don't have access to all these 25 million kind of SMEs out there. And I would not know how we could get information to that, but somebody like Eurostat should be able to do so, no?
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing this up. It's been really insightful, and I also feel that we are having a very honest conversation, which is what we need nowadays. I appreciate so much your leadership on this, Marjut, and for being with us, for being open also to discuss topics like this, and for showing a vision on how we can collaborate and work together. Thank you again. Your final words, advice
Thanks to you, and really, I'm very much looking forward that on successful continuation of her fund and all the other initiatives that are out there, that we can get and we can really build a strong European economy.
Yes,
this is what we are talking about.
And more opportunities for founders in Europe to see their place here with less, as you were saying, administrative burden, and with much more feeling of support and also resources to support that culture. Thank you, Marjut.
Thanks to you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.